When you start the game, you will spawn with one of the 4 ACUs, depending which faction you picked. This is the UEF ACU. What's the ACU? Well, it's your main unit, so to say. If it dies, you lose the game, and you only start with it. You can build stuff like an engineer, so it is missing some structures. You can build factories, mexes, PGens, and some basic defenses and walls. But it is missing mass storages, energy storages, and radars. This yellow ring, its build range. If you try to build something outside of it, the ACU will have to walk. Red ring is your attack range. If you try to attack something beyond it, the ACU has to walk again. And this darker red ring is your Omni radius. Will see through cloak. That's its main use for the ACU. And also vision range is the same as Omni for the ACU. Then this brighter yellow, it's the range of your indirect fire. And there's 2 range rings for it. So this further one is the maximum range, and the inner one is the minimum range. And for UEF ACU, it's the TML. So if you try to fire inside of this ring, the ACU will have to walk further away. If you try to fire beyond this, ACU will have to walk closer. And about the build range. This is the ACU's build range, but the engineer has a shorter build range. So that's something to be remembered. Oh yes, and the ACU cannot build the hydrocarbon power plant either. But otherwise, the ACU and the engineers are the same in the structures they can build. And the ACU has 10 build power, and it also generates some resources, but it's nothing major. The engineer has 5 build power, so 2 engineers are worth 1 ACU in terms of base building. What are the differences between the 4 ACUs? Well, they aren't actually that big. This is the UEF one, 12,000 HP. Seraphim ACU, 11,500. Aeon ACU, 11,000. Cyber ACU, 10,000. And regen for them all is 10, except for the Cyber one, which has 15. Otherwise, as they stand, they are the same. But they all have upgrades. Right arm, also, well, back and left arm. Those upgrades make them quite different. So let's start with the UEF ACU. There's the T2 upgrade. 800 mass, 21,000 power. Gives you access to all the T2 structures. Increases the ACU build power to 42. And also unlocks the previously locked T1 structures. Also gives you 2000 extra HP and 10 extra regen. T2 upgrade is same for the all factions. Then there's T3. 2400 mass, 50,000 power. Takes very long to make. That's usually the main reason why you can't get it. So increases your HP further, gives you an extra 1000 and also 10 extra regen, and gives you access to T3 structures and increases your build power to 100. And T3 upgrade is also same for the other factions. Then on the left arm again, you have a repair system. It competes with the T2 and T3 upgrades, so you can only have one. It gives you 1500 extra HP, but gives you 40 regen. So it is a good combat upgrade. Increases your survivability by a fair bit, but you will lose the utility of building T2 structures or T3 structures. Then on the other arm, you have the gun upgrade. 800 mass and 24,000 power. Kind of like the Nano, it's a combat upgrade. It increases your range significantly, allows you to kite units a lot better. It doubles your DPS. So normal DPS is 100, now it's 200. The UF gun is a bit odd because with all the other ACUs, the firing rate doubles, but with the UF ACU, the damage increases by 100. Then there's the RAS upgrade, but we'll discuss that at the end. Then on the torso, you have a shield, relatively expensive, 2,300 and 113,000 power, and costs 250 energy to run all the time. Gives you 19,000 extra HP, but it's in the shield, so it doesn't work like the HP. The way shield works is that once it takes damage, it depletes, obviously, but then if it doesn't take damage for a couple seconds, it will start regenerating at the rate of 30 HP for the UF shield. And if it's completely depleted, then it will regen at an increased rate, but it will only come active once it is fully regenerated. And this shield is also good because it's like it's not a bubble, it's a personal shield, so you can dodge shots with this. So if you compare it to the shield generator field, which is even more expensive than the normal shield, but it gives you some extra HP. It's a bubble, so you can't dodge with this. But you can protect units or structures with this, so it has some uses. It's quite expensive, so you might want to stick with the normal shield. Then you have the teleporter, extremely expensive, 15,000 mass and 1.5 million power. It allows you to teleport anywhere on the map, be it in your opponent's base or at the corner of the map, or just 10 meters next to your ACU. It takes 10,000 power every second to teleport, and it needs a charge time of, I don't know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And it creates this animation, and your opponents can see this animation, so be aware of that. If you try to teleport somewhere, like in your opponent's base, they might prepare for this. They see it.
Commander under attack.
Then the UFACU has drone upgrades. One drone and a second drone. They're flying engineers, and they have the same restrictions as a T1 ACU, so they can't do the storages and radars and such. But they fly, so they have some uses, but they're very easy to kill. Just 6 HP. You can try to sneak them somewhere and make a factory or get some reclaim. And they aren't that expensive. 120 mass, under 3,000 power, practically nothing. Then the TML works like a normal TML launcher. ACU builds the missiles. You might want T2 for it though. Like with T1 upgrade, like without the Tech 2 or Tech 3 upgrade, the ACU builds the missiles way too slowly. So you can fire it somewhere.
System enabled.
And once a new one is built, you can launch it.
System enabled.
This is also quite useful in combat against other ACUs. You can try to fire the TML at them. And since it deals 6,000 damage, you can either kill the ACU outright or deal very heavy damage. And then there's the Billy, tactical nuke. This requires the T3 upgrade on your ACU for the missiles to be built in a reasonable amount of time.
System enabled.
And it works like a nuke. You fire it somewhere,
System enabled.
And it explodes like a nuke. It deals reasonable damage, but extremely expensive. And the missiles are also extremely expensive. So, most likely too expensive to be of any use. And it's blocked by TMD, so it's very easy to counter. Think carefully about making this. Then let's move on to the Seraphim ACU. Just a gun, and it doubles the rate of fire, otherwise it's the same. Then you have restoration fields, normal and the advanced one. And what these do is they increase the regen rate of the units that are close to this ACU. And it also increases your ACU's HP by 1000. So you have some T1 tanks in your ACU, they will gain a bit of regen, like 6 regen, something like that. It's nothing big, but it can have some effect. And then the advanced restoration field.
System enabled.
They are not that expensive, so, but they compete with the gun, so you need to think which one is more useful. But the advanced restoration field gives more regen and more HP to your ACU. It also increases the HP of the units that are in the restoration field. So you get some T3 tanks, they will gain I think it's 10% more HP that they get. So it can be a significant boost if the HP of the unit is high. So T3 tanks. With T3 tanks it's extremely useful, but still it's competing with the gun. And the torso, there's the teleporter, brass upgrades. Yeah, the Seraphim ACU also has the TML. It works just like the UEF one.
System enabled. System enabled.
Then UEF had the shield, but the Seraphim ACU has nano repair system. It's a bit cheaper than the UEF shield. What it does, it increases your HP by a bit. 2000 HP exactly. And it gives you 60 regen.
System enabled.
Unlike the UEF shield, which gives you a huge HP boost, but once it's depleted you have to wait a long time for it to come back. Seraphim ACU's nano is working all the time as soon as you take damage. So you could consider this to be better than the shield, even though it's cheaper. You're weaker against snipes because the damage comes in quickly, but in prolonged fights this will be a lot more useful because of the regen. And then there's the enhanced non-repair system. It's quite expensive, almost 6000 mass and 500,000 power. So it gives you monstrous amounts of HP and regen. Almost a bit over 20,000 HP and 210 regen. So with this your ACU becomes a monster on the battlefield. But you can probably get this by the time you have D3 units on the field, so it's a bit dangerous to use it. But it's good if you want to increase the survivability of your ACU. Again, it's extremely expensive. And then on the arm with the tech upgrades you also have another gun. It's called the splash gun. It gives your weapon a lot more damage, and it also gives it splash. Okay. So while normally your DPS would be 200 with the gun, with the second gun you will get over 1500 DPS from it. So it kills ACUs and structures very quickly if you get in range. But again, it's also very expensive. 5400 mass and a lot of power. It's kind of like the second nano. You can't get it too early. So think carefully if you need one. Then the Aeon ACU. The strange thing about the Aeon ACU is that it has its gun upgrade split to 2 different upgrades. So when with the other ACUs, the gun costs 800 mass and 24,000 power. The Aeon has 2 upgrades, and each of them costs 500 mass and 15,000 power. So it costs a bit more. And the upgrades are divided to rate of fire, and the range.
System enabled.
So, isn't this just strictly worse then if it costs more? No, the range is better on the Aeon ACU. The range is now on this yellow circle. If we compare to the Seraphim ACU, a bit larger. So you can kite the other ACUs with this. It's quite useful. And if you don't need, for example, the extra DPS, you can switch it for something else. So it's good even though it's a bit more expensive. Then on the arm with the rate of fire upgrade, you have a sensor upgrade. And this increases your Omni and vision radius by a large bit margin. And since it's competing with the rate of fire upgrade, you can safely itch change it once the T1 stage is over, or once the T2 stage is a bit further along, since the rate of fire won't do much against T2 units. Then on the other arm you have the tech upgrades. And on torso you have a shield. It's quite a cheap shield, all things considered. So only 1300 mass, 35,000 power, but it only gives you 8,000 extra HP. But it's relatively cheap, so that's okay. Then there's the better shield. Costs the same as the UEF shield, but it gives you 6,000 extra HP. So, same thing as the UEF shield. It's quite nice for survivability. Good in combat and easy to dodge with it. It's a teleporter. Then, unique to the Aeon AC, you have Chrono Dampener. What this does is that within this yellow circle, will stun every enemy unit except ACUs, and I don't think it stuns experimentals. But even if it does stun experimentals, you don't have to get too close to them. So it stuns them, and once they're stunned, they can't do anything. And once the stun ends, they have a brief moment to do something, be it fire or move away, and then they're stunned again. It feels like 1 or 2 seconds, and then they get stunned again. So with the Chrono Dampener you can effectively lock the enemy units in place. Very good offensive tool, but your ACU doesn't get any HP from it, so quite vulnerable, need to be careful with it. It costs a bit more than the first shield. Not by much though, it's very useful. And to the Cybern ACU. You could consider this to be the worst ACU in team games right now. Why? Because it doesn't have any survivability upgrades like these three do. So let's start. Just the gun. Looks the same as the Seraphim one. Double fire rate, increased range. But unique to the Cybern ACU, you have your gun and tech upgrades on the same arm. So you have to choose one of them, which is quite annoying. Then, on the other arm, you have unique upgrade to the Cybern ACU. You have the torpedo launcher. Range is up to here. And it allows you to take on 2 destroyers in the water if they try to kill you with their own torpedoes. If there's 3, they will kill you. But it is a very nice tool against Navy. And it's not even that expensive. 1500 mass. Compared to what destroyers cost. They cost thousands of mass. And then, other option, if you don't want the torpedo launcher, you have microwave laser. It's essentially, well, the same laser that the Monkey Lord has. And if you have gun, it has the same range as the gun. It has 4000 DPS, but because you don't have any survivability upgrade on the Cybern ACU, it's pretty much a death sentence to use it in combat by the time you can get it, since it's expensive, 4000 mass, 500,000 power. So it's mainly used like by transporting your ACU with a T2 transport and dropping it next to the opponent's comm, or with the teleporter. You can make the teleporter and teleport into your opponent's base, for example. Try to snipe the ACU or nuke defense or power, whatever you might need. So instead of the survivability upgrades, it has personal stealth, makes you invisible to radar, but a small comfort compared to a shield, for example. But it's quite inexpensive. So a very early upgrade you can use with the gun. Makes the ACU quite dangerous early on, but after T2 hits the field, it does almost nothing. And you can upgrade the stealth to cloaking. This makes you invisible to vision. Also radar, the stealth carries over. So nothing except Omni can see you. So if this was an enemy ACU, this ACU would see it because it's in the Omni radius. And what exactly has Omni? The T3 radar, ACUs, Galactic Colossus, and T3 Air Scouts. Those are pretty much the only things that can detect this now. It also adds 15,000 HP, but it's not really a survivability upgrade because it costs 6,000 mass and 750,000 power. So a very late game upgrade, can't really get it early on. So now the RAS upgrades. Start with the Seraphim and Aeon ones. Seraphim has RAS and ARAS. They cost the same, but ARAS is especially just double RAS. Essentially just double RAS. 5,000 mass, almost 200,000 power, and you get 16 mass and 2,000 power. So it makes the ACU generate some resources, but it takes a while to pay itself back. It's still worth it to make it if you can afford it. And yeah, the ARAS is just double RAS. Aeon, just like the Seraphim one, has also ARAS. Gives 18 mass and 1700 power, as it's of course double that. And the UEF, unlike the other ACUs, the RAS on the arm instead of the torso, and it gives 14 mass and 2500 power. And the Cypern ACU the RAS gives 12 mass and 2700 power. The amount of mass and power they give is different. The Aeon and Seraphim RAS gives less power than the UF and Cypern ones. The main advantage of the RAS is the power. You can use it to make T3 air or just finance your power needs for a while. So that's the ACU upgrades. Next will be ACU combat with and without upgrades. One thing one should know about ACU combat: the overcharge. An extra weapon the ACU has. Of the normal weapon, can fire all the time, it has no restrictions. The overcharge requires 5,000 power and will deal, well, it's the minimum amount of power it needs. And if it has more power, it can deal a lot more damage than it normally does. So with just 5,000 power, you can deal 1500 damage, but the more you have, the more damage it can deal. So normally you need a power storage to use this, but since I have multiple ACUs on the field, I can use it already. So the power storage, and then you would go overcharge the unit. It kills all T1 units instantaneously. And if you have more power, you can kill T2 and T3 units instantaneously as well. Cruxes and ACUs behave a bit differently. And you can also use automatic overcharge by right clicking on the icon. And now if anything comes into range, the ACU will automatically overcharge it. And it prioritizes higher tech units first. But now to the ACU combat proper. So normally, an ACU is worth about 20 tanks. Assuming you have overcharged. If you don't, it's a bit less. And the best way to use the ACU is to kite, so move away from the units.
Commander
And like this, it's worth about 20 tanks. Of course, if you have any units with you and manage to keep them alive, then the number of units race you can take on will increase. Yeah, if you can kite well, so all of the units are not in range, you can take on significantly more units. Your ACU gets veterancy. It needs about 20 tank kills. And once it gets the veterancy, it will gain a 10% HP boost. The UF ACU gets 1200 HP extra. It gains 6 extra regen, and it gets some of its HP back. Normal ACU is worth about 20 tanks, if they all get in firing range, as they should. So be careful with the ACU. It's good, but you need, like, be careful with it. If it dies, you lose the game. So, an ACU with gun is not actually that much better than the normal ACU. Like, yes, the gun is a very nice upgrade, you should get it. The range and the extra DPS very nice. But it doesn't get any extra HP. So as long as the tanks get in range, you're dead. Like if there's too many tanks. You can take on more tanks, let's say like 30. But if there's too many, you will die. The DPS is doubled, and range is also very big, but the gun alone won't do much. You need some unit support. That's the thing with ACUs. As long as you have units with you, their survivability increases by a lot. Yeah, if you block the ACU, don't allow it to retreat, and all the tanks are in range, like... Yeah, that was the overcharge. The overcharge does a lot. So, avoid grouping up your units like I did, if you want to kill an ACU. It already gained a veterancy. You might not actually kill it, that would be very surprising. So yes, the overcharge is very powerful, it can take out groups of units. So this ACU managed to survive now, even though we had a lot of units, because it could overcharge all the time. But have your own units with your ACU, otherwise it can die very easily. And usually you don't have enough power to overcharge all the time, so be mindful of that. You might only have power income of, well, power overflow of like 100 power. You overcharge once, you train your storage to 4000, you wait a bit, you can overcharge again, and then your storage is 0, then you can't overcharge. So be mindful of that as well. Keep some units with your ACU and you'll do fine. Then, this is the UF ACU with gun and shield. And since there are T2 units, the gun won't do much against them. Like the range is the main appeal against T2 units. So the shield protects the ACU. But once it runs out, we are in danger. The T2 units are quite good, and we should overcharge them immediately. And let them surround us, try to avoid it if you can. Yeah, the shield doesn't regen while in combat. Yeah, shield is down, and now we regen at an increased rate. No, it's no longer 30. But the fastest way to regen the shield is to get it depleted. That's also very dangerous. If all of these units had followed the ACU, then we would be dead. We couldn't have stopped it. The shield protects you initially, but once it goes down, you are in danger. Then, Seraphim ACU with nano and gun. See that next.
Commander under attack.
The nano gun com and the shield nano com are pretty much the same. There's not a big difference between them. Oh, remember to fire. The regen starts working immediately. That's the Like if you get overwhelmed,
Under attack.
it's considerably worse than the shield. If you can keep at range and make use of the regen, then the nano is extremely good. Yeah. Now we got overwhelmed and we died. But if we had units, some of the fire would have been directed at our units, and the ACU could have retreated more easily. And that way the regen could have done a lot more. Regen is good in prolonged fights, but shield is good if you just want to do some quick fights where a lot of damage can be dealt by these 3 units, for example. But the shield is better. And of course you can get the T2 upgrades, nano repairs for UEF, Aeon shield, Aeon chrono dampener. You can get all of those, and the fights play out a bit differently. But the upgrades increase your ACU's survivability and combat potential, but they alone aren't enough. You will need your own units. ACU combined with units is extremely powerful, and you can also use the units to allow your ACU to escape if you get too low, or they can go, if you see an opening, you can go through it, raid, such stuff. So you should always keep units with your ACU. Yep. So this covers the ACU overview. Good luck.